We're not a used car. We're not just devaluing day by day by day.
Absolutely not. No, we are priceless. We can't have our value taken away from us. Ever. It's impossible.
I want to introduce my friend, Jed Thorpe. Thanks for coming out tonight.
I'm glad to be here.
Well, you know what? Talk to the guests. Tell them a little bit about yourself and your background, if you would.
Sure. I'm a therapist. That's my background.
Hey, that's a good thing.
A little bit about myself. I'm from St. George, Utah, and I say that because although I was born in San Diego, my wife gets upset when I say I'm from San Diego because I was only there until I was 6. I was transplanted in a little place called Washington, Utah.
Yep.
So grew up there in a little trailer park. Trailer park kid, worked on a turf farm or a grass farm growing up. Rode my bike all over the place. And then that was me growing up. Had no aspirations for college or any kind of higher education. In fact, what got me into it was I was doing wilderness therapy. I went on an LDS mission, which was a surprise to everybody.
Where'd you go?
Yeah, North Carolina.
Nice.
It was funny because I was probably 20 when I left. So I was a year late. And when I said, hey, Mom, I'm going on a mission, she said, why? Why? And right before that, I got into a little bit before that, I got into an accident on my motorcycle.
Oh, wow.
So I like to think it knocked some sense into me because I was just on the path of whatever, just
spreading your wings.
Yeah, just rolling around. I was out of the house when I was 17,
Gotcha.
living, doing that thing, lived in a drug house for a while and didn't do drugs, just lived in a drug house, and that was an interesting experience.
I'll bet.
Yeah. But I had no aspirations. And then I'm doing this wilderness therapy, and I hurt my knee. And then I'm home all of a sudden, not at work with these kids, hiking around the wilderness, and I'm like, where are all my friends?
Yeah.
And they were in college, and I had just no direction of college. And when I said, hey, Mom, I'm going to go to college, she said, she gets mad when I bring this up, but she said, just get C's, because no one had gone to college before. Myself, it was just, nobody talked about it.
C's get degrees.
C's get degrees, yeah. So from there, I went to college, and the only thing that interested me, John, was people. I've met people in the past that are like, oh, I just love anatomy. I love the way eyes are made, or I love, cars. They have this passion for something. I didn't have any of that. What moderately interested me was people, so I got my degree in psychology at UVU, which was, back in the day, UVSC.
My hometown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Around.
Yeah, I love it.
Great place. So I went there, let's see, when I was 24. So I didn't even start going until I was 24.
So the big question on my mind, did we leave UVU with a wife?
No.
Oh, hey.
No, but it was really close.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I met my wife in my very last little bit of college.
Nice.
So here's a really weird thing. My last semester, I actually made this offer to UVU saying, hey, I want to go abroad and do my last semester. And they had no programs like that. Uh-huh. So I just wrote up my own program, found a place to go in East Africa, Tanzania,
Okay.
and then went out there, got my passport and went out there and I did this big long study on boys' homes out there, and I came back, and that's what got my degree at the very end. But I hadn't finished to answer your question, I hadn't finished my essay for a long time, just kind of dragging it out. But my soon-to-be wife was like, you need to get this done. And I said,
that's cool.
All right, I'll get it done. Got my degree in psychology.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I'll tell you my San Diego story. Mm-hmm. I lived in San Diego as a little kid in what is SeaWorld's parking lot now.
Wow.
Our house was taken down to make the parking lot for SeaWorld. And and I'm going to move to St. George when I'm old enough. So we got that connection going,
Yeah, St. George is a nice place.
It is. I love it down there.
Nice
I love the sun. And it's fun to escape, 3.5 hours south, and you're got palm trees and red rock and
lots of sun.
And up here we're in the mountains and so
Utah's beautiful.
It is.
It's beautiful. We got everything but the ocean, which my wife, who's actually from San Diego, reminds me of all the time.
Yeah. Totally got the Great Salt Lake. It's really similar.
Kinda. I'm not going to say that, though. She won't agree.
Yeah.
She loves the mountains. So.
Yeah. It is. It's a great place to live. I've loved every bit of my life here in Utah. So you ended up getting your degree and settling here in northern Utah?
So, got my degree when I was 28, 29. Didn't start college till I was 24.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't really do anything with a bachelor's degree in psychology. Surprising to me, right? I couldn't do anything with it really and make more than $10 an hour.
Isn't that crazy?
So I married my wife Natalie, and we moved to San Diego, where I began to do recruiting. So recruiting for law firms, did that for a while, hugely successful, made a lot of money. And then 2008 came, and by that time I had my own company, and everything just tanked. And I was barely getting any work at some crisis prevention place in St. George, making $10.12 an hour or something like that. By that time, I've got a wife and a little girl like Ella, my little daughter, and I'm playing a lot of World of Warcraft because what a great avoidant strategy for there. And my wife one night looked at me and says, "You got to do something."
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, I do got to do something." And I looked online, found an online university called Capella, and enrolled and became a mental health counselor.
Nice.
3.5, so it was almost like an 8-year journey altogether, school-wise. And then we moved up here.
And so you're happy you took that route?
Oh, absolutely.
That's cool.
I'm never going to say I'm unhappy about anything that happened in my life. It was a long way, and I sure learned a lot.
Well, and you worked in recovery, and so, they're always talking in recovery about, what, that's your journey, and you wouldn't trade that for anything. So.
Yeah, and it's a really valuable belief system to have right there, because everything you've been through has created you.
Yeah.
So if you don't like something that's happened in your life, if you haven't figured out how that's happened for you and what you've learned from it, then that's a real disadvantage belief system wise, because you're going to come with regret, and that's a negative emotion versus, I took a long route getting here and I sure learned a lot on the way. Thank goodness that happened.
It makes me think, I can't remember the person that taught me this, but I had said, gosh, I wished I could go back and do this. I tease people all the time. Man, I wished I could go back to 7th grade and pay attention, But you know what? Having that mulligan, getting to go and redo. And what's interesting about that is if you've already reacted one way through an experience or made a decision, if you went back, you wouldn't make that same decision most of the time because now better. And so,
good awareness.
And I thought, how cool is that? I never stopped to think about. We're constantly learning. We're constantly growing and figuring things out. And so,
that's good stuff, John.
If we did it all again, we'd do it different. But you know what? It would be right.
It would be right. Well, what you're talking about is something I talk with my clients all the time. Like, oh, I should have done this. I should have done that. They flog themselves with this.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
You're right. I usually I'm sitting next to a wall and I'm very animated with my hands, and I'll say, listen, you're on a journey and you're going up a mountain. When you were in 7th grade, and you wish you would have learned better, you're right here. You can only see this much of the valley.
Yeah.
So you made the best decision that you could make with that vantage point. So it's unfair for you to get upset with yourself now that you're, decades, years, months, however long it is later, with a different vantage point, looking back over your life. It doesn't make any sense. It's completely irrational and won't do you any good.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Well, we were visiting this last week or two and talking about suicide prevention. And the work that both of us do in within that boundaries of prevention and things, and we were talking about kind of the way people look at things, and everybody has their own ideas as far as what would work and what would not work, and it's kind of fun to explore all of those different ideas and kind of. The world's changed. It's changed since we were kids. I'm older than you, but it's changed since we were kids. And, things that our kids are going to go through, our grandkids are going to go through, are going to be so much different than the world that we have made and lived in. And so it's really interesting. And so it's kind of changing.
Mm-hmm. And you're changing with it.
Yeah.
So first of all, kudos to you for even being open to let in a potentially different belief system than the one you have that's, connected with depression and the prevention of suicide. A lot of times where you'll get people that trip themselves up is they have this identity, this value tied into their belief system and tied into what they believe about something. Mm-hmm. So it really is difficult for people to unmarry that belief system or divorce it even, just to attract a more healthy one.
Yeah.
So kudos to you.
A different perspective.
Different perspective.
You know what? It's life is a journey, and I like learning different things and looking at. I've felt like I've done well in my life at looking at things through others' eyes, and it's we have nothing to do but learn. You know, so
good stuff. Well, I just like that you're not tied to a belief system that you're going to fight for because somehow you think it's your identity and value and everything else when really it's not.
Yeah. It's
just a belief system.
Yeah.
I've actually gotten in trouble. Well, not in trouble, but I've gotten, I've experienced some conflict with other professionals. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah.
So, because I really do have a different idea of suicide prevention.
Okay.
And I've talked with multiple clients around this because I see a lot of people who have worked through depression or are working through depression. Mm-hmm. I've been depressed. In fact, I think everybody at some point or other has had some form of depression.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've talked about it on the podcast before, but I think they say that in your lifetime, the average person's lifetime, they're going to experience 6 bouts of real depression. Mm-hmm. Life's a roller coaster. Mm-hmm. You're going to have your hard times and your struggles, and you're going to have times when it just kind of flows. I mean, everything kind of goes the right direction, but it's not a straight road. I mean, it's a bumpy ride. Life is.
Hopefully, like with this podcast, with this awareness. And by the way, what I'm going to spout out here isn't anything new at all. It's just emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. And where I got some conflicts, I'm like, hey, instead of putting all this focus on, and I swirl my hand because analogies and stuff, I think of it as a whirlpool. Mm-hmm. And we're targeting and putting our attention on people when they're way down in this whirlpool.
Yeah.
And they're in this crisis. They're not thinking rationally. They are depressed. Suicidality, thinking about how they can just end it all because it's so hurtful to be way down here in the spiral. And I'm not taking away from that. That's important that we know, the signs of someone who is suicidal.
Yeah.
It's important to know.
You're talking more upstream.
I'm talking more upstream, up the funnel. Yeah. What's going on up here that's getting people to a place where they even get caught in this whirlpool?
Where it's getting sucked in.
Yeah, exactly. And having experienced depression and a firsthand exposure, I know what got me at the time caught in that whirlpool. It was when I thought I was going to lose my identity with my family.
Yeah.
So it's an external value that I had placed on myself. Easy to do, by the way, when you grow up in a religious community like Utah. So, and I really don't talk a lot about religion, typically. However, boy, growing up, you had a lot of emphasis put on this is what you do, and this is how you progress in life, and you get married and have kids and everything else, and that's the meaning and purpose. So
and if you miss one of those steps, it's really kind of it's tough on you.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got this form of perfectionism that everybody wants to be perfect, and I've been perfect. I'm a perfect screw up, and so
it's funny. You're right. There's this timeline and everything else involved in it. And back in the day, remember, I didn't go to college till I was 24, so I was kicking it around with the single people, and I legit went into, and I was in this college ward or whatever, and I was probably 25. Yeah. Which is so young now. I'm almost 50 at this point. I'm 25, and I'm at these girls' houses, and some people from the church, not the Catholic church, come through and they say, "Hey, we need you to go, Jed, grab this thing in the car." And I go in the car, and there's a list. I see my name on it, and next to my name it says old. Old. Yeah. So but right there, it's a great example of when you're not fitting in line with what you've been taught was the way to go, then you're going to have some dissonance. You're going to be out of alignment. Negative emotions going to come like that. So way up here, that's one of the things we could identify.
Yeah.
It's okay being single.
And it's okay charting your own course.
Yeah, it's okay.
It really is.
Such good stuff. I got all befuddled on that story. What were we talking about before that? Catching this.
Just being the upstream, trying to notice it before, and what better time to catch it than before you're in the middle of it, because it's so much harder.
Listen,
midway down, you're just digging.
Done.
You're just digging.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
It is not possible, because that's why we're looking for the signs of something tragic happening. Because halfway
because
through
we've missed
now,
all of this, and now we're picking up on the last ditch efforts. How do we?
Yeah,
how do we dig out?
These people, you can't ask to be rational.
Yeah.
Can't ask to think about your family, because the really sad part of depression and suicidality that no one talks about is the effects that it has on everybody else that you're connected with. Try to tell that to someone that's just down and out, feeling so depressed. They don't get it.
Well,
it doesn't register.
The one thing we know, to use your analogy of the whirlpool, once you're in it, we have a way. I think human nature is to have these blinders on. And now we've lost all our peripheral vision, and we are ultra focused on the problem. And if it's depression, if it's addiction, if it's whatever that problem is, relationships, we just ultra focus on the problem, and we're missing all of this that's out here on the peripheral.
Yeah, and your brain's really in crisis mode.
Yeah,
it's just doing everything it can to stay above water, and sometimes, unfortunately, that means I'm just going to end it. It's too hard.
Yeah.
Which is why we look for the signs.
Yeah.
I'm about educating, hopefully children around upstream, as you call it, all this stuff. Where's your value? What's your identity? And rather than placing it in what our culture teaches us, have a nice house, or what our religion teaches us even, have a family, have a nice car, go to church every week, whatever those things are.
Look perfect while you're at church.
That's another one too. That's ego stuff.
Yeah.
So, but rather than do that external validation, have a knowledge and a real strong belief that you're okay without any of that. You're okay. And what'll happen, this is amazing, John, what'll happen, people that go in with that belief system, that are raised in that belief system, they can handle life, because you're right, life is going to throw some curves. They are more resilient because they have stronger and healthier belief systems set in place. You see it in third world countries.
Yeah.
These people that have nothing, happy.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
They don't tie their stuff.
They don't value those external items as to their value. And and I don't know if I would call it the American way, but it certainly is a standard in this country that whoever has the most stuff wins or something. And I believe it took me probably nearly till I was 40 or in my mid 40s, well, probably lower part of my 40s, when I realized that having things doesn't make me happy.
Yeah.
And if you try to keep up with the Joneses, you're going to lose every time. You're going to lose every time. And so if you can just accept the fact that this is who I am and this is my values, then as soon as you give up that worrying about being what your neighbors are, or you take it to the religious thing, you talk about coveting what your neighbors have. You know what? You don't covet. You don't wish for those things. You just wish for a nice life.
I call that a case of the "I'll be happy" wins.
Yeah.
In the psychology world, they call that the hedonic treadmill.
Yeah.
Where it's just over, and I'll be happy when I get this, and you get there, and you're not.
And then you're not happy.
I'll be happy when I get that. I'll be happy when I get that. And there is some truth that does there. Well, it's not that brings the happiness. What brings the happiness is the goal of that.
Yeah.
The purpose. So that's I just love talking about this stuff. So, and I got into this master's program way back in the day, and I still was just doing it because it's the most interesting thing I can think of, I guess. I can't make money playing video games, so I'll do this. But the more I've done it, the more, I mean, now I'm at this place where I can't get enough of it. It's just, it almost, and I think about it all the time. I'm doing videos about me in the mountains, or this is like life, or this is what's going on here, and let's learn about this. So when you have that meaning and purpose, that's where your happiness comes from.
Well, so how do we I guess we're looking to the youth. How do we teach the youth? How do we teach them that it's not how many likes they get on social media? It's not.
They're in trouble, John.
Because
they're in real trouble. That's a real.
Reality
issue.
TV has kind of changed things to make our kids think, you know what? It doesn't matter. When we were kids, it was you could someday be president. You could be an astronaut. You could, these lofty goals that most of us will never attain. But we knew that it was a possibility. Kids today want to be Facebook famous, Instagram famous.
Yes, my kids are telling me they want to do what I do and be on YouTube, even though I'm not famous.
And it's true. And it's that 5 minutes of fame. And there's no values behind it. It's just whatever I've got to do to be famous.
And that's what scares me a lot. Because when we were growing up, our values, if you want to go this far, is superheroes. Batman, Superman, early morning cartoons where they talked about honesty and doing the right thing. The Andy Griffith Show, if you want to go way back. Those are the values are placed, but they're not really anywhere now.
We've got the Kardashians.
The YouTube things are just all like ridiculousness in our eyes, but they just eat it up. So to answer your question, I say we teach it in schools. How are we not teaching emotional intelligence in schools? Somehow, when I was in Africa, I was there for 3 months in this little village, Morogoro, the only Mzungu in town, that's the white guy in town. And they were so happy. They had their culture placed so much emphasis on internal value that they would name their children. I met people, I worked with people named Happy.
Really?
Absolutely. Or charisma, or charity, or compassion.
Yeah.
All these like internal attribute words that they place so much value on that they name their children after it. And that is how they can be happy with nothing external.
So odd question. What was their situation like with suicide?
Oh, I never heard of it. No.
Isn't that funny?
It wasn't something that, I don't really think it was even
a thing.
Yeah.
And here they had nothing.
Right.
Or very little.
They had nothing, so they didn't have their value tied up into
material things.
And not just material things, but people.
Yeah.
My boyfriend or my girlfriend dumped me.
Yeah.
Where's my value now? You know what I mean? They didn't have that.
Yeah.
And I imagine with the way we're integrated now with social media and online this and that, I bet they're having more of it because.
Wouldn't that be interesting to see?
Yeah, that'd be an interesting study. I'm sure it's
really
out there
would.
somewhere.
Yeah.
But I bet there's more of it.
So what would we teach in the schools if we could teach our youth this upstream prevention? I mean, what are the ideas of what would we teach them?
Great question. I would call the class Emotional Intelligence 101.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Talk about where their value comes from. And I do this over and over and over again with clients. I've done it in groups. And I'll say, who are you? They'll be like, well, I'm a father. I'm a therapist. I'm a bike rider. I'm a this and that. I'm a good, all this external stuff. And I'm saying, no. Who are you that can't be taken away? Who are you? Who are you internally?
Yeah.
It can't be taken away. So I would say, let's teach them who they are, where their value really comes from. Because, and think about this, John. When you're a kid, you're in alignment. And when I say alignment, for those of you listening, I'm talking about a concept called cognitive dissonance. And remember, I'm not making this stuff up. This is stuff I'm getting from other people who have been down the road, way down there, a lot of wisdom and years and Anyway, cognitive dissonance is when your behaviors aren't in alignment with your values. So kids, as they're young and growing up, 4 or 5, I always the clients like, who's a 4 or 5 or 6-year-old? You know, oh, my son or my cousin or my nephew. What are they like? Oh, they're happy. They're honest. They don't care about what people think of them. They tell you how it is. Are they caring? Oh, so caring. They're always asking me how I'm doing. You know, are they compassionate? Do they have integrity? Oh, yeah, they do. Like they feel bad when they hurt someone. They just are. You know what I mean? All of their internal values are in alignment with who they are and their behaviors.
And it's all kind of comes pre-wired, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
and then as we get older and jaded and stuff, we kind of...
Well, we get older and we find out, I mean, just think lying is the first one, or keeping a secret.
Yep.
I just broke, well, let's see, this probably happened to me. Like, let's see, oh yeah, I have a 9-year-old son. Just the other day, hey, did you eat breakfast? Yep, I ate breakfast, Dad, because he knows I'm like, you got to eat breakfast in the morning. Yep. What did you eat? Because I'm on to my little 9-year-old by this. He's yeah.
You know his tricks.
Yeah, he's had me running around for a few years, but I'm kind of starting to catch up a little bit. And he says, I had those, you know, Lucky Charms. They're right over there. And I said, where? And I'm like, because I threw those Lucky Charms away last night. I don't like you guys having sugar cereal. And he's like, oh, because he learned somewhere that if he lied, he wouldn't have a consequence that he didn't want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He didn't want to eat breakfast. So we start learning these behaviors that are out of alignment with our values. Mm-hmm. And for a time, we don't really notice it, but more and more, and as we get older, I mean,
oh yeah,
geez Louise, behaviors
we really
out of
start
alignment.
pulling away from that core.
I would teach that. I would teach that they hit the jackpot no matter what. Your life is the jackpot. In fact, your value can't even be changed. A lot of times I need to get like some gold spray paint and spray paint a couple rocks and say, hey, this is you. Your value is $50,201. This is it. You're priceless. You're a big gold nugget. You can do whatever. I can throw this through a window. I can scratch up this nice house that we're in. I could hit somebody. Anything you do, it's out of alignment with your value, doesn't change your value. Mm-hmm. Do you see how important that is?
Yeah.
So as they get older, if they get dumped, if they lose their family, if their parent dies, if something tragic happens, they have this awareness and this belief already instilled in them that they have value, that they didn't lose their value. And I'm talking, you get older and you make a choice that is not a good choice and you feel like you're a whore or something like that. Or you get teased for doing something, you know, you dumped so-and-so, you're a bad person, or you hit somebody with your car. I don't know. Whatever it is, your behavior might have been out of alignment
with your values.
With your values, and who you were doesn't change who you are internally.
Yeah.
Just your behaviors change.
And teach them that there's a way to bring that back.
Exactly. In fact, that's how I prove to people that they're good people. Because I thought, I'm just not a good person, Jed. This is what I did. This. I'm like, oh, well, what if I can prove to you that you're a good person? Oh, there's no way you can prove to me. And already I know I can prove it. And I'm just kind of like having fun at this point. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, how do you feel about it? Well, I feel awful. I can't sleep. Been feeling guilty and shameful, all this stuff for decades. I'm like, and that's proof that you're a good person.
Yeah.
Because
you recognize that it's out of alignment.
Yeah. If you're out of alignment, the more out of alignment you are, that's out of alignment.
Yeah.
That means you're a good person. So guilt is good. Get you back into alignment. Oh, I didn't like doing that. I shouldn't have lied. I didn't feel good.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it again. Huh?
Yeah.
That's good stuff right there.
And it seems to me, as you're explaining that, when we're kids, we're just who we are. Mm-hmm. And then as we start to pull away, it just can be small, just a fraction of just barely getting out of alignment. Mm-hmm. And by the time you're our age, you could be way over here.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't take pulling off that trajectory very much to realize that, you know, that spread's getting wider and wider.
Yeah.
And so
it's unfortunate. And a lot of times I believe you come pre-wired with this goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we can talk sociopaths. There's that's 4% of people, I think, is the stat. 1 out of 4. Is that right? That'd be 25. 1 out of 25. There you go.
1 out of 25.
Man, I'm bad at math.
Hey, you know what? I'm not going to correct you because
So
remember, I didn't pay attention in 7th grade.
So regardless, high majority, 96% of us are good, solid people. There's another section that might not have values and morals that no one told me about either growing up, but they're there.
Well, you know, and something that, and I hate to pull it off,
No, pull it off. I don't
but you know what? Talking about this with kids, you know, one of the episodes we featured my wife, and she was the guest, and it was deliberate. It wasn't because I didn't have another guest to be on. I wanted her to tell her story. She had some adverse childhood experiences, and how much that affects you. But looking at it the way you're looking at it, if we know our core value, when bad things happen, we still know that, you know, you're like, that value hasn't changed.
We won't go down into the spiral.
Yeah, so I think that could actually be a protective factor in not suffering the way that so many people suffer through adverse childhood experiences, because that, as you're pulling out of alignment and you're realizing that things are happening that are not your value, you can end up way over here as an adult suffering the consequences because we didn't know how to bring it back in.
Right. I mean, just think about that. I mean, and you're talking about these, they call ACEs.
Yes.
In that, and the stats are just outrageous when it comes to adverse childhood experiences and addiction.
Yeah.
Which, I'm always like, no, it's not something you're born with.
No.
It's something that you are coping.
And so many of those things were just totally out of their control.
Absolutely.
All of them. And you know, and as we studied that, and my wife has gone to many of those trainings and stuff, her number was 9.
Yeah.
9 out of 10.
So she would have.
4 is considered high.
Yeah.
At 6, they expect that your life expectancy to drop by 20 years.
Yep. Well, think about it.
And so, you know, and so I like what you're laying out there.
Yeah. And think about it. And really, our culture, unfortunately, I mean, one of the childhood adverse experiences, what's it? ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, is divorce. Or someone going to jail.
Yes.
Or, you know, death isn't really something that our culture really control.
Yeah.
However, man, it's much more acceptable. I'm not saying, hey, stay in a horrible marriage.
Yeah.
But man, it has an effect on children.
Yeah.
It just does.
It does.
So imagine they have that going on in their home and they can go to school and learn that just because mom and dad are fighting doesn't mean that it's their fault.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that kids believe.
Yeah.
They believe that. They're so egocentric. Everything's revolving around them because the brain's not developed enough to think otherwise. So it's completely normal. But what if they were programmed through schooling or through some kind of other, hopefully YouTube or this podcast, that their value isn't connected to mom and dad staying together?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
And I mean, you look at the statistics, half is going down that path of having a parent that is divorced.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get clients who are so scared of like damaging their children that they'll stay in these abusive and unhealthy relationships. So then I say, what's more broken in the home? What's the more broken home? The one that's divorced and they're both happily, living their lives with the children when they have the children, or the people who are still married and unhappily married at that, and just teaching the kids all sorts of who knows what messages. So this is obviously a pretty complex issue. We're going down all sorts of rabbit holes, but those are some of the top things I would teach in a school for kids growing up. And then I would do the guilt and shame. Tell
me about guilt
and shame. Oh, this is just, and again, I go over these things. I'm a therapist. So, and remember, I'm always immersed in this. I think about it all the time. And I forget that other people don't think about it all the time. So I'm continually shocked at the unawareness around us that people have in general.
Yeah.
Guilt is good.
Yeah.
Guilt is good. Shame is the worst. Shame is irrational. It's hopeless. It's bad. Shame is you are bad. And the shame that a kid would get from their parents is, I'm not enough. I'm a bad kid. If I was a good kid, they would have stayed together, right? Owning it, identifying with it. I'm a cheater. I'm a whatever, and some derogatory term afterwards. They identify with it. That's shame.
So is it fair to say that guilt is I've done something bad and shame is I am bad?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And guilt is great.
Yeah.
Guilt is I'm out of alignment. I
Now
don't
you're
feel
aware
good.
and you can pull it back together.
I can pull it back together. I call it the Jiminy Cricket.
There you go.
It's great. It's your conscience, really. But shame, that is just, and so many people live in it. Shame is evil, if you ask me. It is hopeless. It drags you down. It's never healed, ever.
So how do we conquer shame?
Awareness. We talk about it because people they have no awareness around it. You know what I mean? Oh, remember, kid, you're a gold nugget. You're priceless.
Yeah.
You're worth this. Your value can't change no matter what you do. Shame would say, no, you're not worth anything anymore. That's that. Shame is your value goes down each time you take a hit, each time you cheat on such and such, each time you do whatever is lie, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just, that's shame. Shame is your values going down.
Yeah.
That's impossible.
Yeah. We're not a used car. We're not just devaluing day by day by
Absolutely
day.
not. No, we are priceless. We can't have our value taken away from us. Ever. It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's shame. It's awful. It's awful. People carry it around for years and years and decades.
Lugging it around and
And then
not letting it go.
Yeah. And that's why we're talking.
Yeah.
Because this awareness, just a little bit of awareness, can change that path.
Yeah.
Get us back into alignment.
So instead, in schools, we're teaching in health class things that we're never going to remember. And
Yeah, right, exactly. But also in school, you're not okay if you get a bad grade. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Oh, you got a 55%.
you know, and it's one of those things that I've had kids that struggled, and kids that struggled not exceeding expectations. And so every once in a while, when you have a kid that's getting straight A's, you kind of want them to get a D.
Yeah,
And realize that, you know what, you're okay.
exactly right.
It's okay not to be the best at everything. It's okay to have things that you have to put extra effort in to be mediocre.
Yeah,
Because I think there is so much of that, and we talked about in sports now, we're given participation trophies.
yeah, it's unfortunate.
And where for years, when you were a kid and I was a kid, maybe you watched the Olympics and it was like so cool to see the world come together and there was going to be somebody that took the gold, was best at something.
Yep.
And it was okay for somebody to come in second and get the silver, somebody come in third and get the bronze. And we've kind of taken that away. I wonder how many years it will be before everybody gets a gold medal at the Olympics.
Well, I don't know if it's up. I don't think that'll ever happen. I think people are getting wise on
I
this.
hope so.
Because legitimately, the kid who gets a medal for just participating
Yeah.
knows that he did not. That it's tied to something not good.
Yeah.
I didn't like. Somewhere down there, maybe even deep,
Yeah.
he feels bad for getting the medal because he knows that someone
didn't
else
earn it.
did better. Yes, the earning part wasn't there.
And we have to know that at our core.
Yeah.
So I agree. And I think there's so much to bringing our kids back in alignment with where they need to be. And maybe our parents felt the same way about us. When we're watching Dukes of Hazzard and
Yeah. You're right.
or Gilligan's Island, silly things that they were probably thinking, "Oh man, what's this world coming to?" But
Yeah,
but
I pity. What was it? Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
yeah,
I weep.
dude, I was Ferris. 100%.
Fantastic.
And so
Fantastic.
well, I love the thoughts behind it because it does make you stop and think.
Yeah, our culture doesn't emphasize it.
No.
Maybe I'm sure I could think of a lot more things that I would put into this emotional intelligence 101, but I'd also put in the victim stance, which is the number one thinking error that people use for whatever they want to use it for.
It's being the victim.
Which is probably how participation trophies came into existence in the first place.
No, I'm certain.
Pity is power.
Yeah.
So
how do we teach people not to be the victim?
Well,
to not allow that thought or that mentality to come to be?
Again, it's awareness. And my saying is, anything you can put poor me afterwards, you're in victim stance.
Yeah.
So just that sentence alone, taught with somebody, growing up, oh, okay, that's a victim stance. That's not a powerful stance to be in. That's a negative, actually. I feel bad being and thinking this way. Like it says, victim. You want to feel good about yourself? Accountability.
Yeah.
Accountability.
Yeah.
You'll feel better automatically.
That's the truth.
Automatically.
And so when people, have you, in your work with your clients, have you gotten somebody that loved being the victim and blaming others?
Yeah.
Have you got somebody back from that period to where they say, you know what?
For sure. No, absolutely. Yeah. Because I think when this topic is discussed, it's assumed that the person that's in victim stance is doing it in a malicious manner, with full awareness, just fully aware that they're using this to manipulate, to get what they want, or get it, whatever. I have had clients, many actually, when we talk about this, their awareness goes up, and then they go, oh, you're right, that is what's happening. I don't like that. And they will change their behaviors. They'll change their belief systems. And so they do complete 180s, and I've seen just amazing behaviors just
Shift.
Loop right around. Immediately. It just depends on the client. I've also had many a client say, nah, not going to pick it up.
Really?
Not going to pick that up because, with secondary gains, is people get a lot from this negative behavior, negative way of thinking, and if they get too much, the behavior won't change.
And something that both you and I have worked in, recovery, right? Mm-hmm. The 12-step program, for instance, just pulling something out of a hat, the 12-step program really teaches you to stop being a victim and own your own mess.
I love it.
Right? So, there is ways to teach changing that victim way of thinking to ownership.
Yeah. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. Another thing I like about 12 steps.
You can't recover while being the victim and blaming others for your
Right?
mistakes, right?
No, you'll never
recover.
No.
So the only successes we see in recovery are the people that have altered that false way of thinking.
Good job. Yeah. I was like, belief system. Say it, belief system. It's absolutely right. I like 12-step also in the fact that they provide that connection.
Yeah.
That people so desperately are needing.
Yeah.
In that addiction population.
And for 4 years, my wife and I ran a 12-step program,
Nice.
and you'd see people come in, and you could see that shift, and it wasn't on step one. Mm-hmm. Step one, they come in there, whether they're there for a spouse or they're there for these other reasons. As soon as that takes hold of them, you see that shift, and then it's having that change of heart, and then
the accountability feels good.
Oh, it does.
Even if it's towards something negative, it's just you're going to automatically feel better owning it.
Yeah.
So an example I gave is I got pulled over in my old car. It was a Prius, Serious Babe magnet.
Oh yeah.
So gold Prius. It's that.
Nice.
So I'm cruising down the road and I get pulled over, and I'm still working on not being the victim all the time, so I slipped into this victim stance. Oh, that cop.
Yeah.
Sneaky cop. Speed trap right there. I couldn't even see him, That's victim stuff. Poor me afterwards. And I did. I felt, and I stayed there for a few minutes, and it felt crappy. It didn't feel good at all. And then I'm like, oh, wait, I know this dance. How can I flip this victim stuff? Oh, yeah. I was speeding. Yeah, I was speeding. I wasn't paying attention to how fast I was going. Yeah, that was my fault.
Yeah.
That's my fault.
Yeah.
It feels better.
Well, and if you flip this completely, I have these weird thoughts come to mind, but I'm thinking, okay, if you're a victim and you want to hand the blame over, the best way to teach somebody what they're doing is when they have a success, not let them take credit for that, right? Because that's the exact opposite. You have a success and you've really done it. Mm-hmm. If the roles were reversed from being a victim, you can't own the good that you've done.
You're too deep for me here, John. It's too deep.
So I'm like,
your wisdom is your age has got me there. I can't swim that deep.
When you have those successes, man, you want to own it, right? But when you have those failures, you want to blame.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like this.
So in other words, you're saying, well, if you're not going to own the failures, you can't own the successes, right? Oh, that's good stuff right there. Yeah.
Yeah. You with me now?
I'm with you now. Yeah. Sorry.
Man, I was thinking, man, I might.
I just thought, man, this guy's deep.
But I'm like, you know what? Sometimes to pull us out of that, we've got to have those successes so we have something to say. Yeah, that was all me.
Yeah, I hope.
Yeah.
It's good when people have successes that you say, hey, good job, look what you did.
Yeah.
So I'll agree to that. I'll agree to that hesitantly because I think I'm still thinking about it.
We could edit that all out, but no.
Keep it in, man. I don't make mistakes.
Yeah,
I just have
right.
learning experiences.
Exactly.
It's good stuff.
So, what do we do? I mean, moving forward, how do we implement this? How do we get people to realize, and that connection? I think one of the things that we do as humans is and this is something that would apply to the youth right now, and we see it on social media all the time, is we make ourselves look better by tearing other people down.
Yeah.
And it's a warped way of looking at things where we actually look better when we're lifting others up, right?
Right. That's happening because of an insecurity, though.
Yes.
And insecurities are happening because of a belief system that their value is tied with something. Mm-hmm. And in that instance, their value, they believe, is tied to what that person thinks of them. Mm-hmm. So this emotional intelligence 101, I'm thinking middle school, where they have some kind of getting some deep thinking going on.
And those are some hard years.
Middle
school sucks.
Yeah. Oh, some of the roughest years of my life.
Yeah. I'll tell you what.
I got put through the ringer.
Oh, you and me both. It was, I couldn't get out of there quick enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we start teaching it in middle school, follow that through high school.
Yeah. Let's just keep teaching it. And what's going to happen is the kids will start teaching their parents. Mm-hmm. That's what because right now, my shocking awareness was a lot of adults don't know this. Mm-hmm. Don't have emotional intelligence. In fact, when I worked in rehabs, the whole thing was just bringing up emotional intelligence and awareness. And when they left, we said, you are now more emotionally intelligent than 95% of the population. Yeah. And it's true.
Yeah.
They come out with way more awareness than we do in the general population because it's not taught, ever.
So I like this. So we teach our youth, and the youth, in turn, teach the adults.
That's the only way it's going to happen because adults are too entrenched in their own and unhealthy belief systems and everything else coming along.
We're miles from our value at this point.
It's a bad business model that I've got going on because I really do. I'm trying to work myself out of a job because if people had this, they wouldn't come see me.
Yeah.
They would be like, no, I'm fine. All's well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we need to get you a business model that's going to work. But you know what? What a better way to walk away from it than solving the problems, right?
Life always works out.
Yeah. Well, I like it.
I'm glad.
So what else you got in your back pocket? Tell me what else.
I have everything else in my back pocket. What question do you have? Let's talk about it.
Well, I want to know. I mean, we've got, 15 minutes left or so.
Hour? Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. Part one. No, I'm teasing.
Part one. That's good stuff.
But what other stuff do you want to get out? What in these last 15 minutes? What do you think? What's important for our listeners to hear?
There's so much that I have that I want to get out.
Yeah.
There's I could list a whole plethora, if I'm going to use a big word that I just barely learned.
Yeah, I can't spell it.
Like I learned it from the Three Amigos.
Nice.
You have a plethora of sweaters.
Yes,
that's good stuff. So I would talk about when to say I'm sorry and what an apology really means. I would talk about, when you give a gift, what that entails, because when you're giving a gift, you don't have expectations.
Yeah.
It's no strings attached. If there's strings attached, then you're in a business transaction.
Yeah.
It's not a gift. You're a business. It's a business arrangement. I would talk about what gift giving looks like. I would talk about anger. I would talk about resentments, because anger is a steel ball. Remember when we were kids, we would call them steelies. We played marble.
Yep.
It's a big steel ball that does not dissolve.
Yeah.
I would teach how to get away from that anger, because anger is just hurt or fear
coming out,
right? It's a secondary emotion. We don't like feeling vulnerable with hurt or fear, so we'll go to a more controlled anger. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would talk about secondary gains, how people get a lot from, behaving poorly. So much so that sometimes people continue to behave poorly because they get too much out of it. I would just talk emotional awareness all day long. And I would talk about, why are people committing suicide? It's because they're losing what they believe is their value, which they place in something external. That's what's happening. My parents are getting divorced. I got a bad grade. People are making fun of me. Yeah, all these things, all this external stuff. That is top of the whirlpool, way up in the stream, information and topic. Learn that stuff, and this won't happen nearly as much.
Yeah.
Nearly as much. There's hope, I think, is what I would say. There's hope.
And so teaching hope. Mm-hmm. And, I think sometimes we get to a point where we believe you're too far gone.
And that's
right? We're too far away from that.
That's the shame.
And so that would be really interesting to see that come into play, to let people know you're never too far gone.
You never lose your value.
Yeah.
Do you hear it?
Yeah.
You never lose your value.
Yep. And I think that's total key.
Mm-hmm. Compassion is actually pretty cool too. And I say this all the time with like clients or whatever. I say I would have done the same thing that you did. If I'd had your background, raised the way you were raised, had your biology, had your thinking, I would have done the exact same thing.
Because we usually do the best we can with what we've been given, right?
That's absolutely right.
Because
you're way down here on the mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's interesting. I remember giving advice to parents about their children that were teenagers when my kids were, in diapers and 5 and 8 years old, and you really can't give advice until you've been there. And so, as you use that mountain analogy, until you've gone through it, can you really see clearly and recognize, again, those life experiences.
I think you can. I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay, tell me.
I think that if my kid's going through something, like my daughter, for instance, was going through something that she was having some drama with her friends or something like that. I've never had girl drama with my friends like that before, but I do believe that because I'm higher up on the mountain, that I can see more. I might not have been in that situation.
Yeah.
But I know enough about what might be happening. I can say, this might be happening, that I can help. So, and I think that's
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I might have said it wrong, but we've been through that. That it might not have been in that exact situation, but we've kind of gone through it and witnessed enough of that you can see better when you're.
Yeah, and it's funny you mention that, because I'll actually run into that with addiction therapy or whatever, or even really any kind of therapy, what people will do is say, if you haven't been through what I've been through,
And you see
then
that.
you don't know. And I'll say, you're absolutely right. I don't know. But neither does somebody who's been through whatever you've been through, because we each perceive things differently. No one knows exactly what you're going through but you. I'm just here. I'm here to help. I can. If you want some advice, if you want to talk about it, we can work through stuff. But I can't help. People can help.
Yeah.
If they don't have to have gone through exactly what you've gone through. What the brain does, this is good stuff, John. Ready? Buckle up. What the brain does is we don't want, even if we're in this trail in life, this rocky and bumpy, and we're getting hit by weeds and willows and everything else, and people throwing rocks at us. I don't know, but we know it. We're used to it. So on some level, they're uncomfortable getting healthier. They're uncomfortable getting healthier. So what the brain does is say, hey, it's one of the tricks. Our brains are tricky, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
So what the brain does is say, hey, they don't know. They're not qualified to help you because the brain wants you to be in this path that you know, because it's horrible, but at least you know it. Yeah. And it's more comfortable than doing something you don't know that this crazy therapist is talking about. So we're going to disqualify that advice immediately because they haven't been through what I've been through. I call BS.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good trick, though.
It is.
Good trick.
It is. And yeah, like you said, in recovery, you see that more often than not, where people are like, yeah, if you're a normie and you haven't ever been in the trenches
It's
of
all
addiction.
over. I have seen a lot in recovery.
Yeah.
I see it all over, though.
Yeah.
I see it with parents who are struggling with a kid. Well,
Yeah. The kids are saying, you don't know, you didn't ever go through this.
but the parents are saying to me, you don't have this problem, you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know, Jed, because your kids are only 12 and 9.
Yeah.
You wait, you know what I mean? But that's just a way to disqualify what some potentially really good information might be, because they don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear that I'm not the victim. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that I can be recovered all the way,
Yeah.
clean. I don't want to hear that stuff. It's because there's this belief system that they identify with, they hold their identity with. You know what I mean? I'm an addict, or I'm a, however you want to put it. And I don't know what topic we're getting on now, but they have this value and identity tied with it that it's not easy to give up, even if it's for the best, for the better.
So, with the thoughts that you've come in tonight with,
so many.
yeah, no, but I mean, it's all good. The thoughts that you came in with tonight doesn't matter whether you're in a faith. You're not protected from not recognizing your core value, right?
No, absolutely. Everybody has it.
If you're raised in an abusive situation, trying to get polar opposites. I'm just trying to show that spectrum is for everybody. There's nobody that's disqualified from the thinking process that you're bringing.
All over the world.
Yeah.
You can go anywhere.
Yeah.
In interview a 4 or 5, 6-year-old, you'll get the same happy little kid.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't learned or been programmed any differently yet.
And it's just the stuff that life throws at us
Absolutely.
that slowly pulls us away from that core.
Yeah, we pick up some pretty unhealthy belief systems. Fortunately, and there's even, there's genes involved and genetics. You can change your genetics, though. Epigenetics is where, and it's good information, new science, been around 10, 15 years, where you may have the predispositions to be depressed or have anxiety. With awareness and reprogramming your brain, and with these new thinking tools and awareness we have, you can change the way you can change your genetics. Want to get really fun? Genetics are passed down. Trauma is even passed down.
Yeah.
So people who had this horrific car accident, their kids might be really predisposed to being anxious in cars. You know what I mean? It's that connected. Fortunately, we can change that as we learn and hopefully get more awareness into just emotional intelligence 101. Isn't that amazing?
It is.
It's just the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know, and I learn something new, and I'm like at the low end again, and I have to learn. It's just so many different. Humans are fascinating.
It is. And there's so much that we will never learn because we're just not capable of sucking it all in like a sponge, right?
Yeah.
But so
I don't want to stop, John. Let's keep going.
So tell me this. Do you believe that what we've talked about tonight could be the answer to suicide prevention? I mean,
Yes.
to helping us with that?
Absolutely.
And, I think it doesn't matter our backgrounds, whether you were raised in a strict religion or you grew up in some adverse childhood experiences. It doesn't matter. You can go from this side of the gamut to the other. The things that we've talked about tonight really include everyone.
Everyone around the world. You can go anywhere around the world, interview a 4 to 7-year-old, and you'll get the same behaviors, the same joy, because they haven't had the time to pick up these bad belief systems that I see a lot in my clients.
No, I agree with you.
So.
Well, I'll tell you what, you've given us so much information tonight. I am super stoked at the things that I've picked up, and you've caused me to think about. I think I knew those things all along, but I think they were things that I hadn't really sat and thought on.
You did know it all along. Like that these kids, they know it. Then they are taught something differently. So what you're hearing right now and why it's resonating with you is because you already knew it, which you just said, and it's true.
Yeah.
And you can just feel it. Yeah, Jed, that makes sense. Yeah, that would stop the suicide rates. It would definitely help the suicide rates and numbers because people aren't going to get all the way down here into this spiral because they'll know they have value. You can't take it away.
Yeah.
Ever.
Totally. And the one thing that we have to stop and remember is right here where we live, this is the number one cause of death of our youth. Suicide. It's not car accidents. It's not sickness. It is suicide. And so we've got to talk about it. I really like the fact that you thought outside the box and have kind of put your own spin on what we could do better, because we've got to work as a community and all of us have to put our heads together.
Yeah.
And we've got to figure out how to stop this from happening.
We need to connect, and rather than look at what's different or what that person isn't alike and what I'm like, we need to look at what we're the same.
Yeah.
Where we're similar. That's where we need to connect. People spend so much time like, well, you're different because blah, blah, and I'm not the same. Let's focus on how we are similar, because we're all human.
Oh, yeah.
We all feel, we all think, we all want to connect, we want to feel loved. So that's when we'll start really connecting, is when we stop looking at what is wrong in our thoughts or perceptions with the other person.
Yeah, 100%. So tell me, before we close tonight, how do people find you?
Oh, easy. I have a website, www.meaningtolive.com, and it's all spelled out, meaningtolive.com. I have a YouTube where you can put my name, Jed Thorpe, in the YouTube engine, or you could write in Meaning to Live Counseling, and I have short videos that are just 3 to 5 minutes long. Emotional intelligence awareness. I'm just trying to target, the youth or anybody really who wants free therapy.
Yeah.
And I guess what else? Email, jed@meaningtolive.com.
Perfect. And are you taking new clients?
Yeah, I am.
Perfect.
I'm actually in network with Select Health as well, which is kind of a big deal.
Awesome. Yeah, I love Select Health. So you're located in Sandy, Utah.
Sandy, Utah, off 13th East and about 9075 South.
And do you have a specialty, or do you
Happiness.
Happiness.
We're
all in happiness, right?
Happiness. What do
Okay.
you do? Let's help you to be happy, help you to find joy, help you to create joy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, man, I appreciate you driving all the way out here to Tooele and spending an hour with me tonight and talking about these things. I really appreciate what you brought to the table.
Well, I'm glad that I'm here, and thank you for allowing me to be here and not looking at what is different about me. You know, and just being open and not being married or having all of your value or identity into some belief system about suicide prevention that you might have. I love that you're open to that. So I thank you for the opportunity.
It's an honor to have you. And so, if you're interested in finding out more about him, please look him up. If you're interested in finding a therapist or a counselor, reach out to him. You do it via Zoom or in the office, and so...
Yeah, via Zoom or in the office. I do speaking events as well.
Awesome. And so if you're looking to bring him into a corporation, to a school, reach out to you. Man, I am so grateful for the people that I've been able to have on this podcast, friends that I can share with all of you. And, you know, if you're watching this podcast tonight, listening to it, and you're having thoughts that are scaring you, and you don't have that person that you've got that connection with where you feel like you can, you know, lay it all out for them, reach out to the Lifeline. Call 1-800-273-8255. They man that line 365 days a year, 24/7. And there's somebody there that can help, somebody that will listen to what you're going through. So please don't isolate. You know, that only makes the healing take longer. It drags it out. Reach out. Have that conversation, even though it's hard. Reach out and find somebody that you can have that conversation with. So grateful for you guys coming back week after week and listening to these episodes and the guests that we're sharing. I know you're not coming for me, you're coming for these guests, and I love the information that they're laying out there for all of us. And so, again, thanks for being here tonight.